Not rolling.
We are J and J. That
Who's
guy
J-
is Justin.
I'm still trying to figure out who J and J is. But that's Jared.
We are two leashed dads that are living our everyday lives while chained to our loving families and responsibilities, such as making sure our kids are not watching inappropriate content on TV. It is a very hard job, especially if you're not in the room all the time.
Agreed.
You got the autoplay feature sometimes, and yeah.
What features do you like about the content? Or like the stiff or the God, what features do you like when it comes to controlling your children's content intake?
Habits, yeah. Well, we'll get into it. We'll get into what we use as dads, and if our wives agree. So, what our families do to help our kids stay on a good streak of watching decent things. I wouldn't say educational because not all of it is, and that's fine. But anyway, how was your week?
Dude, I'm exhausted yet again. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. This is last week was my final week, kind of just counting down the days.
Bittersweet.
It's a bittersweet, yeah. Leaving some good coworkers, but gonna go find new ones and a new team. Finally get through and not have to deal with maybe such a stressful position anymore. But it's good. It's good there. I think my last day was actually kind of nice though, in a sense. Although I had my senior manager kind of say, "Hey, can you reply to this email?" And it was an email for some like an OCAM who's like a key account manager, and he had responded blah blah blah, and then I had somebody else respond who's like my liaison between like the company and our company. And he is like, well, so-and-so is probably out of the office for Good Friday, right? Because it's the Easter holiday weekend, by the way. For those of you out there, happy belated Easter. This episode is airing the night of Easter, but happy belated to everybody here. And he's like, yeah, they're probably out of the office starting their Good Friday, so whatever. I ended up responding to the email. I mean, it sounded like he was just trying to cover my back. But I provided the email coverage after my senior manager had asked me to reply. And I was like, I told her to. I was like, I was working on a response before so-and-so stepped in. And she's like, excellent. You sure you don't want to leave? Are you sure you don't want to stay? More or less. You sure you don't want to stay on the team? I didn't respond at that. At that point, I was like, I didn't respond because it was bittersweet. She was the senior manager is the one that rubbed me the wrong way after her finding out that I was applying for a new position. But it is what it is. Nothing wrong with her wanting to, maybe throw a little friendly smile out there that way as well. My children have been addicted recently. Even though it was spring break, they've been addicted to playing Mario Party.
There you go.
From the crack of dawn, from when they got up, basically, or when Sam had gotten up, to basically bedtime. We were playing Mario Party. It was crazy. The other thing, I can't believe I've done this. This is the first time in like maybe a long time, other than when I used to work there. I visited the mall twice. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm not much of a... I used to work in the mall at McDonald's, which is no longer there. But, so I was, probably there 6 to 7 days a week anyways.
Mm-hmm.
This week was kind of the first time in a long time that I was at the mall more than once in a week.
Okay.
2 times this week. We went shopping to go get some new clothes for Arlo since he's kind of maybe hit a little growth spurt and grown out of some of his clothes. But then we also went and saw the Easter Bunny. Had to get the
nice.
Easter Bunny pictures. So it was a good time. We did end up celebrating with some family members for Easter earlier today, and we were just outside basically from actually I think about 10 o'clock to I don't know 5-6 o'clock. We ended up doing a nice thing. Went to a church that was holding an Easter egg hunt. So the kids, it was a cool setup. They had like a group, like a 1 to 3 year old group, a 4 to 6 year old group, and a 7 to 10 year old group. Any of the 1 to 3 year olds would go out first, but they had like a little section of the gymnasium that they were in for the 1 to 3 year olds.
Gotcha.
4 to 6 were in the middle of the gym looking for eggs. 7 to 10, they actually had a different setup. They had bins, and now this is just my hand size, but it's larger. It's kind of like one of those totes, basically, that you can store things in. They had the totes filled with fake grass or whatever, that stringy grass, and the eggs, but then it wasn't just for kids to dig into. They had it taped on the top. So you had like taped, crisscrossed, whatever. So you had to use like a little scoop or like a spoon to pull the eggs out of the bin.
Oh wow!
Now there was only like 2 7 to 10 year olds that were there. One being my son, and then the other one being some other kid. So they had a massive haul. Now, granted, the church did this twice. All right, they had one at 9:15 and then one at 10 o'clock. Not a big deal, but it was a massive haul between all my kids because they did a lot of searching. But there was still a good turnout for the little ones too. So, and then we ended up doing our own little Easter egg hunt at home. Where this is the first time I actually where Sam and I actually opened up the backyard for Easter egg hunting. But we had a crap ton of eggs this time. I mean, they weren't just eggs; they were like seashell containers, car containers, filled with a bunch of different things. That's pretty cool. And then they also found baskets. But then they also wanted to play outside a little bit, so we played outside. Threw a football around, threw some airplanes around, like those styrofoam airplanes. It was pretty cool. And then from there, we ended up going to my parents' house to celebrate Easter. They got to search for more Easter egg baskets and a squirt gun, which is what their kind of present was. And then we also played outside some more. So tonight, it's going to be a good night.
Sleep like a baby. Well, hopefully your baby sleeps like a baby.
She normally does. But hey, there was one thing that I was kind of worried about. We had a hailstorm. You
had a hailstorm?
Yeah, it was actually really weird.
Was that Tuesday?
Something like that, Tuesday or Wednesday. But it was short-lived, I guess. Very short-lived hailstorm, which turned into rain. But it was weird because all of a sudden you hear this hard pelting and it's like, that's really hard rain. And then we looked outside, it was hail. Now, granted, they were very small. I would probably say they're pea size, but I mean, not enough damage to do it. Not a big enough size to do any damage to like a vehicle or a house. But if it's hitting you, it's probably going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're padded. Sorry, unless you're padded. But that was kind of my week. I'd love to hear more about yours, Jared. Tell me about your week.
Nah, it was a good week. It was a week, like Justin said earlier this week, we had some pretty gnarly storms, especially in the middle of the night for us. Definitely woke the kids up, so sleep was not had for most of the week. But it cleared up, I think, Thursday, and then it's been pretty much partly cloudy all up until today. So it was great weather, and it was beautiful weather today. It was God, almost 70 degrees up in Elkhart Lake, which is where we were this afternoon. And then in town here, it was probably around 60, but we're close to the lake, so that's the price you pay. Then we went for a walk yesterday. Well, before I get into yesterday, which is Saturday, my week was busy with work again, just trying to get a few things done. Went bowling on Tuesday afternoon with my team. Did absolutely horrendous, but I haven't touched my bowling ball in many, many, many years. So, and I also got my thumb re-drilled that day as well. I'm not making excuses, folks. I'm not a very good bowler, but I used to be okay, but not as bad as I was Tuesday. So I drove to Racine Thursday night to pick up Antonio. He's here all week, so that's cool. And then we had a bit of a lull yesterday before we dyed Easter eggs. We like to do the hard-boiled ones every year just because it's tradition. They don't really eat them. I do, but whatever.
Oh, I love hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah. And yesterday we went down to the beach. It was cold.
Why would you go to the beach?
Sunny and nice. Something to do.
But it was windy, which makes it cold.
I know.
Oh my god.
I know.
People.
But anyway.
Audience, help me. Tell him he's an idiot for going to the beach.
It was sunny and beautiful. At least it wasn't 40 degrees. It was like 45.
Sure.
The extra 5 makes a difference. But yeah, we had an Easter egg hunt today, this morning. I hid some of the hard-boiled ones, and then my grandma brought over plastic ones. So the kids had a good time.
You don't just eat the hard-boiled eggs as like a decoration in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I eat them the day after and some during lunch, but in the morning they have to find them.
Oh, interesting. I've never made my children find hard-boiled eggs. I would just kind of let them sit in the fridge and eat them. Let them decorate it.
Yeah, got plans. Got plans for mine. Gonna do some egg salad. Gonna do some pickled eggs.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I want some deviled eggs now, thanks to you.
Yeah. Outside from like 10 until 6 o'clock, so Justin and I are pretty beat from being outside all day.
Yeah, save us, guys. Save us.
When you're in Wisconsin and it's the first day above 50 degrees, you gotta get outside.
You're able to enjoy the what? Was it 69 degrees today?
Yeah, well, it was in Elkhart Lake. It was almost 70.
Oh my god! I think one of my friends had a 69 day cookout today.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's like one of those traditions. It doesn't matter whatever day it is. The first time it hits 69 degrees, it's a cookout for him. So congratulations to him if it was today. Hopefully you had some fun or whatever your plans were. But yeah, so yeah. Speaking of children and making them do things, tell me. I mean, you made them hunt Easter eggs, and now you're tired. What is it like controlling their content when it comes to television or tablets or whatever? Because you obviously can't control content outside because they're not watching TV or anything. So, what are you doing to control, or how do you control their content when they're inside and you're not, and they're just kind of at a lull rather than playing with like other things?
Well, we do have the apps. We don't have cable, so that kind of helps a bit. But we do have the apps where I like how Paramount has, you have to enter a code to get out of the kids, where Netflix doesn't have something like that. A couple other streaming services don't have that feature, but I think Disney has where you have to put in a code to get into certain adult profiles. But so that's the main thing I use to keep my kids, on one, away from the adult stuff. But I also am within earshot pretty much constantly, and Natalie is also within earshot. So if we hear something that doesn't sound like the normal things they watch, we go and investigate what they're watching. What about you? Do you have any apps that have codes and stuff, or?
So yeah, So for the tablets, they like to watch a lot of YouTube on the tablets or
Okay.
whatnot. Usually, there are some content creators out there that we don't want them watching, but
Oh, right.
we are. I mean, because they do have some foul language.
Very.
We've actually made it where we've made it verbal or well known that we don't want them watching any GTA content, because the creators can be very foul in that regards, and it's just kind of not very good. We don't try to, when we control the content, it's not like we're keeping it to the idea of educational, because that's very hard to control. Well,
Very.
not hard to control, but there's just so many other shows out there that aren't necessarily educational, but are still okay for kids to watch. But we're still in earshot or area, or like a range, to hear what they're watching. So if we hear something very foul, and we've heard some things come out of people's mouths for some of these animated creations that are out there that they do like to watch, we tell them to turn it off, find something else to watch. As far as Netflix, it's not, we don't, again, there's not really a password or anything for them to exit, but they are pretty good about normally staying within the kids section, when they
Right.
do watch Netflix. Never knew about the password for Disney Plus, or like a kids account for Disney Plus, or even Paramount.
setting.
But yeah, I believe it's a setting, but I've never really dabbled in it, because just never had the need to. Normally we are watching just Disney movies anyways. So even on the adults profile. So as far as Paramount, now we do have Paramount as well, but they don't really watch it. That's more or less something like I watch or Sam uses for shows. So I got to be careful what I'm watching when kids are around. And then lastly, we also have Prime Video. Prime Video and Crunchyroll. Kids don't really watch Crunchyroll. That's more of an anime thing. They may sit down and watch it with us. Most of the time, they're probably not understanding what's going on, though, or paying attention.
Right.
So, that's another way we control the content, or what they're absorbing is, they're probably absorbed in something else, so they're not really paying attention to what's going on. I will advise, as much as we may not think they're paying attention, like watching it, they may be hearing it and absorbing it that way. So being an audio learner at that point. But again, I think they're more or less distracted by what they're watching and hearing as well from their rightful tablets or switches or whatever they're on at the time. Let's see what else. Yeah, so granted, I know you could probably set passwords based on the settings. We do try to control what they go into by making sure they have their own profiles. So any kind of content that they like to play on or go to is hopefully more or less kid friendly for them, or age appropriate at that point, because there's those parental settings you can do as well, or account settings you can create. So we try to keep it that way as well. What else? Yeah, I mean,
So your kids, they're on the TV, tablet, Switch. Is that it?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the PS5, but that's where they watch a lot of like their Disney movies, like we have for Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
Netflix. So normally I'd say it's Nico that's usually watching the TV, if anything, at the time. Where the nice thing is I don't have to worry about the content that some of the older kids take in when they're in school, because they're in school. It's the educational content. Whereas Nico, he's just home free, doing what he wants. But at the same time, we're still have some say. But he's not really dabbling into some random stuff. It is funny, though, some of the advertisements he has gotten in the past have been like vote for Ron Johnson or just some of the random shit that's been out there. It's like
really, wow.
He's gotten those political ads. I'm like, why? Why is he getting?
Gotta start him young.
God.
Gotta start him young.
Yeah, well, it's just amusing how he gets some of those actual political ads or more adult ads in that sense, or focused ads. But yeah, so just wanted to share that kind of funny thing. Watch out if people start getting that. Means the kid probably dabbled in something that maybe they shouldn't have, or somehow they found content that had an ad for that, and that ad is now part of the stuck with you because it's got gathered cookies.
Cookies, yeah.
Or your cookies are there for that, so it's gonna play no matter what now, or you can change that. But I mean, that's kind of what we do. So they've got a multitude of electronics that they can watch content on. Do you limit like what electronics they can watch content from?
They only have the TV and maybe our phones if we're out somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't really let them use my phone at all for any like videos like that. So it's if I'm letting them play on my phone, they're playing a game on my phone, like Pokemon Go, for example. So, and I know that's obviously it's pretty safe to play. So, yeah. Now, as far as since they have the TV, probably for a good portion of the day, maybe. I want to know what shows do you allow them to watch?
Well, anything they can watch anything within reason on like the kids version or the kids section of the apps. They're actually pretty picky on what they like. So they try to stay away from like live action as much as possible. They're definitely animated kids. Like anything animated they'll watch. Okay. But if it's live action, they're out. So,
interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so they're big Gabby Cat fans on Netflix. Huge Gabby Cat fans.
Oh, the Gabby House doll thing? Or dollhouse?
Yep, Gabby's Dollhouse. I always call it Gabby Cat just because I don't really care. But what else? There's like a Gecko Fix-It Garage on Netflix.
Huh.
They like that.
There's also, isn't there like a monkey one? Isn't it actually a monkey?
I think so. That's
close.
I don't really know. I just know the Gecko Green thing. They used to. This is one of the ones we had to turn off though. Was Cocomelon. Just something about Cocomelon turned them into zombies, and I didn't like it. It was very just kind of disturbing. I even sat down and watched an episode. Yeah, I sat down and watched an episode. I said, this is deranged. What the hell? I don't know. It's just whatever. But it's my personal opinion.
No, it's fine. You share. That's what this is about too, right? Because Cocomelon is something we actually really enjoy watching. When I say enjoy, I mean when they were younger, like Arlo and Nico were younger, and trying to get into like getting them to talk and everything. That was I would say that was kind of great because it had those sing-along songs or whatnot as well. Or I guess the entire thing was sing-alongs, but Cocomelon's kind of where the Baby Shark thing took off too.
Yeah, Baby Shark's huge.
Yep. So, I mean, what other shows are there? I mean, obviously you've had to put a stop on Cocomelon. What other shows have you put a stop on?
Princess Power. Or Power Princess, or what have you.
Okay, I don't think
very political undertones, and I do not agree with having politics shoved in my children's faces when they're not expecting it. And supposedly, it's just another story for a TV show, and that's not right, in my opinion. That's just controlling media, but whatever.
I mean, that's
the media trying to control the narrative on certain situations. I'm not going to get into it, but there's also growing up, I was always one to watch Power Rangers, just violent TV shows. And what did I want to do when I played with my friends? I wanted to fight with swords and guns and whatever. And I don't really agree with having kids really watch violent TV shows. Like, for example, Antonio's home. He is a Transformers nut. He loves Transformers, man. But I tried watching an episode, even the movies. I can't get into the movies to save my life. I've tried. I went to the screening of one of them at midnight way back in the day, and I was, okay. I didn't pay for the ticket, so whatever.
Hey.
But it's just violence. It's just robotic violence.
I love it. I love it, though.
Yeah, you're a Mutant Ninja Turtle fan, too.
I'm a Turtle fan.
I could never get into that.
I'm an original Power Rangers fan. None of this new stuff, honestly. Like,
okay, sidebar. How far did you get? Because I liked Mighty Morphin, Zeo, but I stopped at Turbo.
So the hard thing is, Mighty Morphin, is great. Then there's some of the other ones, like Dino Power or whatever.
That's after Turbo.
Yeah, that's after Turbo. I personally didn't get very far. But once you kind of start watching some of them, you're like, what? Why? Like, even, I think SPD was one of them, or Ninja or something like that as well. It's like, some of these costumes were okay, but then it's like...
But the storylines were just like...
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's the same... it's kind of like the same storyline that you had with whatever. You've got your villain, they beat the villain in the end, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean... The original is where it's at, and that's pretty much it. You just change up what kind of Megazord you get, or
right.
So
right. So then to end where I watch, what I let my kids watch, I just try to stay with the things that are more on the learning about emotions, learning about friends, family, or stuff like that. Educational to the point where Sesame Street is pretty educational. It's gotten a little bit more loose with that term these days, but it's still ABC 1, 2, 3.
Look at me.
Did it hurt my friend's feelings kind of thing? And then I try to limit the violence as much as possible and the political propaganda. How about you?
So there's a couple shows out there that I've definitely put hard no on.
Like?
Well, I don't know how popular this one is, but I think you've heard of it before. The larva, the red and yellow larva.
Yeah, that's a strict ban in our household.
That is a no-go, and I don't think any of my younger children have honestly watched it. But it was very pointless because it's just these two going through their life, I guess, getting beat up by other bugs, and it's like there's again, it's more just mind-numbing violence. Then there's Boba, which is like this weird creature that is kind of in this house all by himself, and he kind of just goes around and does all this random stuff. There's one episode where he does make like himself a sandwich, so maybe that's educational, teaching your kid how to make a sandwich, but there's no like conversation at all. All it is him showing like facial expressions for something, or all of a sudden doing something stupid like swinging from a ceiling fan. That's not actually, it's not a great show. So that's like a strict ban there. I will allow my kids to watch Cocomelon for the sing-along portion factor. And not to mention, we've done some, we haven't had a birthday, but we've supported the Cocomelon side, with some birthday gifts and everything like that. Pajamas at one point. I think one of our kids actually had like a JJ doll, one of those. So, again, it's a personal opinion, right? Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, whether you like it or not, or, what you do like about Cocomelon versus what you don't. So that's pretty much anything else is fair game. I think violence just kind of comes naturally, especially to boys or younger boys. They're gonna they have that testosterone. They have that want to maybe do something a little stupid like that. Can we control it? Yes. You can just remind them too that it's like this is a TV show. They're not actually getting hurt. Because I mean, we talk about Power Rangers, right? You see you see them shoot, and then all of a sudden they fly back, right? As in they're like they get hit or whatever, and they're flying back. I mean, that's some really cheap acting in a sense. But there's like a kind of a knockoff. It's a Japanese knockoff of Power Rangers, I want to say. It's called Mini Force. It is a more of like a animated kind of thing, but it's little creatures. Like a mouse, a bird, a squirrel, whatever. But they're kind of like... It's a small task force that transforms into some Power Rangers in a sense, and they fight this evil villain called Pascal. which is an
Pedro Pascal,
which is an ex Mini Force person.
Oh boy!
And uses dark powers to try to take over the woodland creatures and basically ruin the territory. But Pascal is working underneath an actual human as well. So, otherwise, I'd say there's not much that we do. Really, I mean, we still monitor what they listen to, as well. But most of the anime stuff or things on Netflix, not bad. Haven't had to really say no or a hard no to it, unless it's something they've continuously watched. And by that I mean, let's say they watch Kung Fu Panda 5 times in one day. It's like, okay, let's find something else to watch. So
same.
I mean,
my daughter will watch The Grinch or Nightmare Before Christmas on repeat all day long, and
you can't. You cannot do that. No, the problem is you shouldn't be doing that in the wrong season. Sidebar, though.
I can't say anything. I've tried to argue that point, and I've lost every single time. So, not going to see who I lost to, but no. Nope.
No. Never mind. Okay, we won't even talk about it.
There's no right season to watch a movie.
Yeah, there is.
Nope.
No? Okay, well, we won't go into it yet. So
I love watching Christmas movies in summer.
You're messed up.
I like Halloween movies during Easter.
Oh my god! I'm gonna
Leashed.
call it quits. You're chained. We're gonna put a chain on you right now, and we're gonna reel this back in. So obviously, it sounds like we do have some parental controls in a way. Now, as in the parental controls that are actually out there, though, do you actually put a time limit on anything? I know for tablets, we're allowed to even set like how much time they can get, or maybe set a requirement where if we need them to read, for example, we can set a daily goal for them to do, and then maybe they have access. I personally haven't done it yet. I know it's a thing, though, because I've seen it pop up under like parental settings. I have established like a turn-off time for tablets, so they're not necessarily on the tablets all night, for example. Now, granted, we take them away at night when they go to bed.
Good.
But
smart.
Sometimes, you can set those parental controls where they can, or like you have the tablet basically go into all done for the day, because it's hit like a 9:30 time, and it's like, nope, your tablet's done. It's locked up now. Or you even set a time limit of how many hours they get of screen time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever you want it to be. I've done that before too. So, but are there other parental controls that you would do, for example? I mean, TV is kind of a hard one to do. since you've already got the, kids channels or whatnot, or kids settings and everything. So
As far as timing goes, we usually just when we work at home, we have an idea of when they've had too much. For example, if they start playing and not watching, click, go upstairs and play. It's not going to be on for background noise. That's what you have a radio for in your room. So, and especially if they do watch TV most of the morning, then that's enough for the rest of the day. So
Sure.
I'd like to say they are only allowed about 4 hours a day.
okay.
If I had to take a guess.
Yeah, actually, one of my so this is kind of a backstory here. Well, not really a backstory, but a story from the past. One of my friends, he, when it came to video games, his house had basically a 1 hour rule of playing video games.
Nice.
It doesn't matter who was there or whatnot. There was no exceptions. It was a 1 hour video game rule, and then once that hour is up, you're done for the day. Which, don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad. It just means you had to find something else to do. So, was it great? Yeah, sometimes that's all you want to do. But I get it. You don't want your children spending all the time. And now, granted, this was even for like us in high school too, at their house. Didn't change, it's fair, right? Still find something else to do. And it makes sense.
How do you complete a mission in an hour?
Hopefully you're good at it.
Right?
Or hopefully you're not in a mission. If you are, too bad. Save it, and hopefully it has a save point or a checkpoint that you last stopped at.
Checkpoint.
So, I mean, it changes, but I get it. I would an hour sometimes, depending on what game you're probably going to get into. Like if it's like Super Smash Brothers or one of those kind of games, okay, reasonable. Like you said, though, the mission games, if you're doing a mission or whatever, and it takes longer, it could be difficult. Now, most missions though probably only take about 15 minutes, maybe, depending on the difficulty and whatnot. But so it was a very interesting way to control. And do I agree to it as a parent now? I couldn't enforce it. Never had it enforced in the beginning. It'd be very difficult to enforce something. Speaking of which, I think if you haven't enforced it before and your children have grown a habit to whatever's going on now, it may not be ideal to try to enforce something. Like if you're going to try to enforce an hour rule for video games, you can't just enforce it on one child and let somebody else go free. It's just not fair. But then again, as well, it's very hard to enforce something already. So be careful about that. Especially if they've already grown accustomed to, oh, yep, I can play it whenever I want, do whatever I want. Have it set in place before, and that's where the parental controls come in handy as well, because maybe sometimes you need to do that though. So I would have a hard time. I just think there's not necessarily, like, I've wanted to do it before, but there's just not the support, in a sense. It's like, why?
That's hard.
So.
Yeah, and if you haven't, and there starts to be an issue, it'd be a good kind of a good starting point to limit, an hour a day until something were to get resolved. Like, for instance, the child isn't doing a chore or doing poorly in school or what have you. Then you could limit the game to an hour a day until that situation improves, and then you can kind of wean back into the unlimited time or just slowly extend it. It's up to you.
Yeah. I mean, tips and tricks. Do what you want to do, but make sure if you are going to let them play video games, if you want to enforce a rule, do it right away. That way, because then you don't have to worry about the child saying, "Oh, well, so and so's house is their house. Our house is this way." don't be like, okay, well, I'm going to enforce this rule now when they've already been doing it, spending limit or unlimited time on the Switch or tablet or whatever console they may be playing on. It just doesn't work. It's like, why, I've oh, I've always wanted to enforce it. Maybe give them a couple hours and then have them do something else for the rest of the day rather than melting their brain or destroying their brain cells from just mind-numbing video games. Again, the support's not necessarily there, which makes it difficult because if you have somebody doing it, or if you have somebody that wants to enforce it, but you don't have the support from the other parent, for example, will make it very difficult. So be on the same page as a mother or like two dads, two moms, mom, dad, whatever the combination is, whatever the partner combination is, doesn't matter. Be on the same page with each other when you are setting parental controls or rules of what time or how much content they take in during the day. But you did bring up a good point about the chores. I want to know here as well. Do you make them work before play? Or are you going to ever make anybody out there, actually, let us know. Would you have your child work before they play? And by work before they play, I mean, granted, once they're at a certain age, they're in school. So, of course, they're doing some sort of work. But before they get to play any kind of video games or watch their stuff, do you make them come home, do their homework, or like do their chores, and then they have time to play? Or are you just like, oh, yep, you can play? I personally, right now, I'm going to answer my own question here. We let them play. And then when it comes to later in the night, that's when we focus, or have them do their, focus on their like chores. Now, sometimes it can be difficult managing it based on what's going on. So, beginning of the week for Kane, he's in wrestling for 3 days, and that's only for now. Granted, it's only for an hour, but he's gone for an hour now. So you got to keep in mind. I mean, he does do some of his homework right away, which is normally like spelling, and then he'll play. He'll go to wrestling, come back and play, maybe do a shower or whatever, eat, do all those other small things. But then near the end of the night, he'll start doing chores, but then he'll also do his reading that he's required to do. Basically like 20 minutes of reading every single night. So we'll make him read before he goes to bed. So, I mean, I would say whatever combination works best. But I want to know, Jared, what do you think? Or what do you do for your kids?
Well, if it's in the morning, we're going to let them watch TV and wake up and kind of get acclimated for the day. But, if when Antonio was living with us, he was supposed to do his schoolwork first.
Okay.
And within reason. So, like, immediately after school, yeah, you have that time in between dinner and whatchamacallit, in between getting home from school and dinner, where it's kind of a relaxation time for the child. Maybe a small chore here or there. But, I wanted that for my girls as well, because, a little bit about me. When I came home from school, I sat down and watched Arthur and basically just PBS until dinner time, or until like the adult news stuff came on PBS. So it was tradition for me, and I wouldn't want to ruin that, because when you come home from school, you don't want to get right back into your homework. I mean, that's just stupid, in my opinion.
I mean, I think
you gotta have time to decompress.
I'm starting to think homework is just stupid in general. But hey, I've
always thought that, but
yeah, it's like why assign homework if you're not able to? Obviously, the teachers aren't getting their lessons all done in one day or the day that they need to. So yeah, there's an issue. Now I get that you have them do homework to practice, but if that's the case, you need to make them practice more in school during that time that you're doing your subject. or focus on that, because really, what are we doing to our children? I mean, I would love to solve this more easily. Instead of I mean, granted, you can do homework, fine, whatever. If we're gonna have problems like in the U.S. here, when it comes to the educational system, this is a little side tangent. I'm sorry. Let's get rid of summer vacation. Get rid of 3 months of summer vacation, and go all year round.
Yep.
Maybe give them 1 week off of summer vacation, 1 week of spring break or whatever, the winter break, 1 week, or maybe just have a month of summer rather than 3 months. Okay? Because this entire school system is always worried about, we spend the first half of the year relearning what we learned last year. And it's like, you just never get enough time to do what they need to do for the new material. It's like, we're doing something wrong. And we have been since you and I were in school.
I used to get so much blasted homework, dude. Like, hours a night. It was bad. And I tried to do it during class, and they'd yell at me because I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying. So.
Yeah, I always hated that. I mean, this is definitely not the tangent we're supposed to be going on, but I definitely...
Anyway.
Damn it, he cut me off. Anywho, he's right, though. So, I guess, maybe the last thing here, too. How often are you watching shows with your kids?
If it's something new, I like to check it out to see exactly what it is. That's how I found out that Princess Power thing. I actually sat down and watched an episode, and I was like, nope, turn it off. We're done.
Gotcha.
So I actually, if it's, like I said, if it's something new, I'll sit down and watch an episode to make sure it's okay. What about you?
Yeah. If I catch it, and sit down. Like, there's been some shows, there's like Beau on the Go, which just seems like a very pointless TV show. It talks about making choices, or doing things, helping, I can't say solving things, but to me it seemed very pointless. But they did some things where they tried to get you to, like, the kids to interact and get maybe a little bit of physical activity or whatever. Like, kind of like Dora the Explorer, right? Where's the map? Say backpack, or whatever. It's kind of like that. But there's another show out there. I mean, besides Gabby's Dollhouse or whatever that they used to like watching. There's one other one. I can't think of it. Abby Hatcher. I think that's kind of now that I think about it, there might... Yeah, it's her, like, this little girl that finds these little creatures that live in this hotel that her parents had bought. Her parents are, like, the owners of the hotel or whatnot, and she finds these creatures, and... Yeah, now that I think about it, though, it probably... talk about a political side of things. It might have some political subliminal messaging. But I think it also does have some important things in there to take away. Because as much as we think about the politics side of things, where, for example, that Princess Power or whatever it's called, you notice the political message in there, or the political, hidden message or subliminal message. I think there's some random lessons out there that you can learn. This is one character felt lonely for some reason, so what they try to do, or this other person was afraid of getting their hair cut, so they tried to show him in the end that it wasn't very scary to get your hair cut, and they were being supportive about it. Like, they wanted him to do it because he was shedding so bad that he needed to get it cut, or he needed to be groomed. So they ended up going together and getting their hair cut, and like, hey, look at me, I look pretty good now with my haircut. And then somebody, like one of the other creatures, stepped in as well and said, look at me, I'm getting my haircut and nothing's going wrong. And he gets his haircut and he feels good again about himself. It's like, oh yeah, you weren't wrong. This is actually pretty nice. There's nothing to really be afraid of. So it's also helping conquer your own fear of something. But
yeah,
I mean, sometimes there's maybe some hidden things in there. So just being careful. But then again, I'm not much of a politic person, so I don't really care.
yeah. So what do you watch when your kids are awake and within earshot of the television? It's something that you got to be mindful of.
I know. And the problem is, it kind of goes out the window. Sam and I have watched NCIS, so there's some blood and gore there, or there's some blood there, and violence. Thankfully, not a whole lot of swearing, if any at all, if I recall.
Well, it's mainstream TV; they're not allowed to.
Yeah, that's true. There's Bones.
Love Bones.
Oh, Bones is so amazing.
Not a lot of gore, but deadness.
There's
whatever.
a lot of morbidity in there.
Yeah.
They're morbid scenes in a sense. I have watched some more or less PG-13 rated stuff. I guess Bones and NCIS is kind of that PG-13-ish category.
Yeah.
I've watched Rabbit Hole, which is a newer TV show on Paramount. It's got Kiefer Sutherland in it.
I've heard about that one.
It's very interesting. It swears a lot though.
Okay.
It's very psychological too, in a way. It's a story about Kiefer kind of going down a rabbit hole in a sense, because he just watch it. I'm gonna say just watch it, or I recommend it if you have time, but maybe not in front of your children because it's swearing, it's saying F or whatever, like yeah.
But is there anything? So you said NCIS, Bones. Is there anything that you wish you could watch, but they are in with earshot kind of stuff?
No, not really. I mean,
no? Okay.
Some things we don't even let them watch are like Deadpool. We won't, we'll make sure they're sleeping because Deadpool's very, sweary, whatever, anything like that as well. Now there are some funny things about this too. Like, there is some anime out there that Sam likes to watch while she's sitting on the couch or whatnot, and she reads it like the description of the show itself, and all of a sudden the very first episode, there's like the first 10 seconds is maybe somebody getting beat up or some nudity in it. I'm like, really? You're gonna watch this in front of our children? It's like,
no.
I'm like, I could tell by the title this was gonna be this. Like, and she even after reading the description, it was just kind of funny though. So, it happens within the first episode, but then after that, there's nothing, that bad. But it's hysterical because it's like it's always the first freaking episode.
Yeah,
always. So, and then she becomes cognizant of it after that. But there are definitely some things that we try to skip through or skip over. If we know it's going to have maybe some inappropriate scenes. But now, granted, it's not just TV though either. Sometimes we try to avoid playing some games that might have some explicit content like that. Now, funny story here. Sam and I were playing a game a while back. I'll make this brief. Sam and I were playing a game a while back. Kane was still very young, but one of the characters is practically nude. All right. My guess is in Japan, pretty much nude. All right. Maybe a little censorship here in the U.S. based on the game, based on different culture. But the one thing that Kane noticed was, and said this to Sam, Mom, she has no shoes. The innocence of a child at that age. Because I think he was like 6 or 7 or something like that. So when he looked at the character, he noticed that she had no shoes. So we took that and translated
that's
as,
the only thing you noticed.
yeah, exactly. So we took, whenever we start joking about that, like like maybe some sort of nudity scene, we go, they have no shoes. So it's become an inside joke at that point. But are there any things that you guys try to, maybe censor wise in your house or control that you watch?
Natalie's a hard no because she's let the kids watch CSI. So,
No, CSI is
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, what about you?
It's pretty. It's violent.
I know
it's violent, and there's a lot of sexual stuff in it. But
so do you just? I mean, obviously that's more like PG-13ish. Do you watch any R-rated stuff or material?
No. I used to be really into the Trailer Park Boys, and I would never watch that when they're around.
Okay.
Yeah, anything with nothing R-rated, anything with a lot of swearing. Same with music. I'm not really comfortable with them listening to a lot of music with swear words in it. But to Natalie's point, if it's in the song and they don't really repeat it, who cares, I guess? I would say still be cognizant of it. Heck, there's one song out there that we listen to on our like Spotify or Pandora playlist. It's like the F song or the fuck song, and it's basically swearing up that song. So every time the kids are around, we skip it. Like every time it basically comes on, we skip it because next thing you know, the kids are really gonna walk in and start saying it. So be very, honestly, guys, be very cognizant of what you might be listening to. Because who knows what they're taking in, what those children are really taking in. Now, granted, you can always be on top of it and be like, don't repeat this. Or make sure you cover on it and be like, don't repeat this. This is not very good. Just still be mindful. I would say try to be mindful. Not saying you have to be like, oh, I can't listen to it or watch it now because it says this. I think some exposure isn't bad. If that's something they're going to constantly hear, then they're going to all of a sudden assume it's okay to say. Right.
So be cognizant. Maybe try to keep it to as minimal as you can. Or if you don't care, then that's fine too. Everybody's entitled to their choices. But keep in mind, we have to live up to those what consequences come, or even repercussions come too at that point. So if you ever get a phone call from the school or whatever, your child swore in class, now you've got to handle it. And how are you going to handle it? Because truthfully, you are the one that allowed it. So just be mindful. Keep an eye out. That's all I say. If you want to be strict or control your content that goes on in the house, and I don't want to say be very, very strict, but there are some people that are very, very strict. So again, they're entitled to do that. But set the rules right away. Never halfway through or after they become accustomed to it, because it can cause some lashback or whiplash in the long run. Unpleasantness, thank you. That'll be the way I want to go. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But just be careful what you're doing and what we do. That's all I want to say for that. God, I've got nothing.
Yeah, it's up to you to either be Ned Flanders or Homer Simpson with your children's TV habits.
Just
we're not professionals. We're just saying what we do and what we like and what we want to share our opinions for our kids. Yeah,
want to share our opinions, our choices that we make, give you an idea for new parents out there, or even for those parents that are looking for some assistance. Not saying you have to take it. I wouldn't always use it as advice, but there are some, I think, good things in here for advice. But, hey, I don't know if you guys know this. I lost 25% of my roof last night. Oof.
The R is the 25%.
I'm so glad he caught on, guys. I'm so glad he caught on. Mom, I said I should do. Mom said I should do lunges to stay in shape. God, I gotta restart. Jesus Christ, that was terrible.
Mom said
Mom said I should do lunges to stay in shape. That would be a big step forward.
Heard it.
Heard it once, heard it twice.
Yep.
I'm friends with almost every letter of the alphabet. I just don't know why.
Yeah. Nice. 7, 8, 9. Yep.
I don't even know if I want to do another one now. Thanks.
Just do it. Just do it. One
All
more.
right. My boss asked me why I only get sick on work days. I said it must be my weakened immune system. I think that's the best one there, guys, for the night.
Yeah, it's the best one there.
Yep. Pretty good. So, hey guys, just again, briefly cover some things. When it comes to controlling or being the parent, setting a time restriction, whatever you want to do, parental controls, get those in right away. Don't wait too long. Maybe if you want to watch what they're watching, take some time, sit down and watch an episode or two to make sure it is, acceptable to your standards.
Please do.
That can better shape your child's future. Or if you don't care, fine, don't care. If you want them to do something, or maybe even set up some standards or a schedule for them, like you need to finish your homework or finish your chores first before you play. Do that. Get some sort of routine if you really want to get a routine going. Do it as soon as you can. I mean, granted, the first few years of their life before they start going to school or whatnot, you may not have much of a routine. But once they're in a school routine, set something up. Have them do some work or chores or whatever. You can have them do chores when they're young too, like before school age. But do some of those things. So, without further ado, appreciate you guys again. Jared, as always, you've been an amazing host. I'm not even calling you a co-host anymore. You've been an amazing constant host. Because, I think we're both hosts. But, you can, if you guys are having problems, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube. There is a little TikTok, just a small brief video, clips of the podcast. Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Anchor FM, which is Spotify actually. So they've kind of come together. But happy belated Easter to all of you, and we will see you next time.